Welcome to Decades, hosted by Chris Rubio. Decades is a show made up of 5 generations of people brought together to discuss topics you wouldn't normally talk about with others. The goal of the show is to learn by having some good, possibly heated discussions, without losing the simple fact that it's okay to talk to different people with different opinions other than your own.
Welcome to Decades. My name is Chris Rubio. We have I don't want to say a smaller group tonight because I don't want to offend anybody.
Put your finger down, TC.
Two words in, he gets cut off.
Put your finger down. You're going out.
A minute group. We've got some other people coming in. Shout out to Mike. Hopefully your thumb does not fall off. A word around town is you were going to be on, but you smashed your finger in it. Before we get going, we obviously have Sub 60 Ed, man in the helm. We've got TC, who's out in California right now. And before we get to Humble, I wanted to get him a little bravo because, as you know, Nick is an adult powerlifter, and he just won the Polar Express for his age group. Humble, you want to tell us a little bit about that? Give yourself a shout out.
It's a strongman competition. So the bigger news is this. So since I started competing in 21, I've wanted to compete in the Arnolds. That's my goal. My overall goal is I don't care about nationals or worlds. I want to compete in the Arnolds. So I scheduled a competition in July that's an Arnold qualifier. And then I qualified for nationals on Saturday in Pittsburgh for 2025. And so apparently they are starting this year as the inaugural year in March for Masters 40 and 50 at the Arnolds. And if you were a top 10 finisher at Masters Nationals in 2023, which I was, 6th place, or 2024, which took place 2 weekends ago, you're qualified for the Arnolds. So technically right now I'm qualified for the Arnolds.
Oh, that's kick ass. That's sweet.
When is that?
Well, bad news is that I have some issues going on with both of my tricep tendons and both of my elbows. If I extend it to here, it feels like it's burning. This one isn't as bad, but my left arm, like anything from here out, it's on fire right now. So I'm doing physical therapy. And I have less than 12 weeks to prep for the Arnolds if I decide to go. So I may forego the Arnolds in 24 and 25 and go in 26 just because I'm not as healthy. And I looked at the weights. So for instance, Kabuki Trap Bar is one of the events, and there's 2 bars. There's a weight, a low weight and a high weight. They call it Trump weights. So if you get one lift on the big weight, trumps 10 lifts on the little weight. The little weight is 650 and I've done 700. The Trump weight's 800 pounds.
Okay, what is the Kabuki Trap Bar? Because it sounds like a place I want to hang out in Thailand.
So Kabuki Strength is a company owned by Chris Duffin, and Chris Duffin got a new trap bar that he built. Chris Duffin's a world-class power lifter, and he built a trap bar that it's actually open, so it comes open. But what's cool about it is if anyone's ever lifted with a trap bar, you have to lift it up, and it's horrendous to get the weights on and off of it. It sucks. Mm-hmm. So the Kabuki Trap Bar, because it's open on the one end, you can just flip it up and it has feet. So you can load the plates with it setting on feet, and it's got 2 different grips. It's got a fat grip and a regular grip. So it's really, really it's a pretty awesome bar to lift with, man. I want to get one for my house, but I read the other day that because he sold Kabuki Strength and he gave all the rights to his bars to Rogue, they're not sure that. I read the other day, I tried to buy one and it said the last 40 on earth. These are them. They're being put together and they're already sold out. So I'm kind of hoping that either Rogue buys that patent or that patent runs out and Rogue starts to make that trap bar. But right now, getting a Kabuki trap bar is going to be a pain in the ass.
I can imagine.
I have my own trap bar, but if I could, I would get rid of that one and buy a Kabuki trap bar.
Can you have someone make one for you?
Yeah, I could, but that thing is there's different versions of that one out there, but what Chris Duffin did to make that one like exactly what he needed is what I would want, man. I wouldn't want to. I'm a big when I talk about fitness stuff, there's very few companies that I'll buy from. I'll buy from Rogue. I'll buy from Sornex. That's what I have at home as a rack. All my weights are Rogue weights. All of my bars come between Rogue and Elite FTS, and I will buy stuff from Chris Duffin. at like I want to get a set of his Q bells. They're like a dumbbell, but it's pretty awesome. But anyway, I in Texas Power.
How close are you to New Windsor, New York?
Oh, probably it depends if that's in central New York, about 7 hours, 8 hours.
Yeah, because there's a guy that's got one for $750 in New Windsor, New York.
Yeah, see, that's what's the price is going to go for now. So they brand new, they run $550. So they're just going to start going up in price. Oh, that's nothing. That's nothing, Rubio. Like I have bars at my house that are anywhere between $450 and $900. I have more specialty bars at the house to lift with than Shenandoah University does as a D3 school.
Wow.
Okay, so kudos to Humble. We've learned a lot about bar prices, which I didn't have any idea. Welcome, Pete, drinking a nice glass of cab, I'm assuming. Or blend.
It's a Rioja, but you're close enough.
Yeah, I don't do wine. I wish I did because you look very chic doing it, and I want to be that guy. I also want to be the guy like TC. I think you do it, and Sub 60. You guys can like a whiskey drink with a highball or whatever. I think I'd look cool doing that. The ones with the big ice cubes.
Yeah, I drink. Yeah.
Well, they're all big ice cubes to you, Sub 60, but you know what I'm saying. I want to be that guy, and I just can't. It's just so bad. All right,
hold on. Before you start, Rubio, I got to give a shout out to Pete because from a text exchange that I was part of, Pete's playing injured though, and he could get on the show and come and play injured. I'm just saying, and other people are injured and have to sit at the doctor's office.
Yeah, we're throwing Mike under the bus here.
Just a little bit.
I'm not really injured. I just showed him his same picture back at him. I was a joke.
No. I know. Just having some.
Okay, so I've got several topics that I want to hit. The first one I want to hit is extremely hot today, even though Sub 60 did not know about it. Congress tried to pass a 1,500-page bill. I think it was 1,547 pages. It came out yesterday, and it was supposed to be passed by Friday, which, I mean, us five, let's say we're five intelligent people, I don't think we could split up 300 pages and read it by Friday because I bet it's not, Dr. Seuss reading. I'm assuming it's a lot of, just bleh in there. And obviously there's a lot of pork. Can we open the discussion on this? Can things like, how is this allowed? Like, I understand how it's allowed, but I'm saying, how is it allowed to still go on? Pete, I'll open up with you because you have the best drink in your hand.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm also not following stuff like that too closely these days, but I would say that it seems to be par for the course for the way government runs, like for years now. And I think I don't know the ins and outs of this bill. Was it the funding bill or for the
omnibus? It was a continuing
omnibus,
continuing resolution.
Right. So again, I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but you have so many staff members, crafting the bills and putting the bills together. And then, end of the year, everything happens at the last minute. But I think a lot of the bills, most of the Congress doesn't read.
Well, yeah, that's Nancy Pelosi had this famous statement. Goes, we got to pass the bill to see what's in it. I remember that was a famous statement. Like,
they did that last time too. Yeah.
Yeah. Call your congressperson. Tell them to vote no, Dave Bazinet says. Yeah, it's one of those things like everyone knows this is a bad idea, but everyone kind of just, okay, let's just keep going. It's the way it's always been. And then you just filter through the bill and there's so much pork in it where it's like, okay, we don't need to study horse manure, in Africa. We don't need to do this. We don't need to study slugs having vodka, and it's one of those things that, this one, I think even the Washington Redskins Stadium was put on it where it was like, huh?
I got a list.
Go ahead, Humble. Let her in.
Yeah.
So one of the ones was a pay increase from Congress, a 71% increase from $174,000 a year to $243,000. Another one was a new football stadium in DC. There was 72 pages of it were for pandemic preparedness and response, and within those 72 pages, they were talking about making permanent vaccine passports and masking mandates were in that. There is a renewal for the Global Engagement Center, which is currently being sued for censorship. And there's like 7 or 8 other things that I've read in it that were in it. It was absolutely astronomical. Now, the one thing that was in it is they put in all of the funding to give the people in the Panhandle and Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and East Tennessee funding for them to for disaster relief. Okay, so and that's the string they pulled on this morning was last night when it came out. Well, the disaster relief funding is in there. If you don't vote for it, these people in these states will not get any money. My problem with that is that hurricane happened 90 days ago. You've had 90 days to get that funding through, but you had to shove it in here. And in my opinion, they do this. This is everyone. And I don't give a shit what party you're from. Republican, Democrat, it does not matter. We've been doing this since 1996. If anyone on this panel doesn't know, the last time that we had a balanced budget was during the Clinton administration in 1996. Since then, we have been on a continuing resolution ever since. What a continuing resolution is, to break that down, is it continues to fund everything we're already funding and any additional fundings that people shove in there. But the problem with that funding is within that 1,500 pages, there's also a saying, I don't know how this even got in there, man. There is on page 950, it is a justice involved individual. So of the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act is amended in the heading by striking offender. So they're going to strike the word offender and they're going to put in justice involved individual. Right. And so this is the kind of stuff that gets stuffed on page like 950 that no one reads. And just like Pete said, no one reads it. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat. This is par for the course. And what we do is we pull on the heartstrings of, we're going to shut the government down. We're going to send the military home. We're going to send government employees home. They're not going to have money for Christmas. They're not going to be able to buy kids Christmas for their kids. They're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z. We're going on a vacation for the next 30 days. So we don't want to be here either. And we're stuffing funding into it. And so everyone tries to hamstring everyone else. And it's been this way since 1997.
Well, and it's one of those things where, like David Bazinet just said, why it's obviously you've got the left and the right both. Yeah, they're doing all this. Why can't someone just step up and say, take the crap out and leave the funding? Like, okay, this bill should be 7 pages long. You know, but it's you can tell like it's almost there's evil on both sides and they're working together. You know, and I just don't understand how someone doesn't have the cojones to just stand up and say, guys, this is wrong.
It's all about re-election there.
Well, I know that.
When you break into that, right? Everyone, I hear a lot of people on both sides talk about we need term limits. I disagree with term limits. I think term limits are dumb. I'll bring up a Republican, Mitch McConnell. McConnell's been in office since 1981, I believe. He's got 46 years in office. So if you take out term limits, give him 2 terms, that's 12 years. Now, instead of dealing with 1 Mitch McConnell, you're going to deal with 4 Mitch McConnells, right? I have a problem with that. My entire solution to this is de-incentivize it. And what I mean by that is, Congress, you voted the ACA in. Guess what? The ACA is now your new healthcare plan. How is that not fair?
Okay.
Right? If you don't balance a budget, you're not up for re-election. If for any year you're in office, you cannot balance the budget, you're not up for re-election. Any campaign funds you get cannot go to you personally. They can go to a PAC and be used for the next guy, but you can't keep them. Right. And if you start doing things like that, hey, there are no specialties for you in any bill. Right. You can't just write in your own raise. You can't write in X, Y, and Z. When you start stocks and bonds, no trading of stocks from anybody in your immediate family, and anybody, I would say 3 tiers out is now monitored for any kind of insider trading.
Yeah, Nick, that gets voted down by both parties every time it comes up.
I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah,
I'm saying these are both party problems. It's the uni-party problem. It's been a problem for years. But why I disagree with term limits are you end up dealing with more of these insufferable motherfuckers than you do if you de-incentivize it. Now you're going to get people in there like, hey, man, I want to go in there and actually do something and spend some time there, and knowing I'm not going to get rich out of the deal.
I agree 1,000%. It's one of those things that it's so blatantly in our face that I don't have words for it. TC, what are your thoughts on this? I want to come back to you.
I'm just wondering, why do we have to add a bunch of crap? Why don't we just pass a bill? One issue, one item. Why do we have to pile all this crap on? And like Nick said, it gets passed back to page 26, the stuff that nobody really wants to happen, or the stuff that they kind of want to hide. Why isn't it just one bill, one vote?
Well, if I could jump in, TC, I totally agree with you. It's because leadership doesn't want it on both parties. So
Exactly.
a few times the phrase "a clean bill," you'll hear that sometimes. They'll say, if leadership from whatever party's in power says we want to pass a clean bill, that means no appropriations. But I'm not in the weeds on that enough to know how many times it's happened. But I've heard the phrase "clean bill," and then it ends up not being a clean bill.
Yeah.
That's because the leadership can't control the caucus, right? And they want something for their district and something for something for their vote for something later or whatever. I mean, politics.
So they can say, "Hey, look, I did this," but they didn't. They put it in there so that maybe even knowing that that's going to kill it, they say, "Oh, I tried, but they didn't pass it."
Yeah, or they know it's not going to pass, so they'll say they'll put something in there they know, so they can go there. Just I tried, but
right,
didn't go through it. But I was thinking about you guys, right? I was trying to get you to the stadium, and it didn't work.
Yeah, I tried to get
exactly.
Unfortunately, it just didn't pass. I don't know what to tell you. I
tried.
That's the one thing I think that everyone on this panel, regardless of what side of the aisle you stand on, is that everyone agrees how jacked Congress does shit, right? How insufferable all 535 of them dudes are. And it doesn't matter any of your demographics at all. Every one of them I think they go in there with good intentions if I'm going to save the world, hence Dan Crenshaw. And within months, the dude is a millionaire paid off by lobbyists. And the next thing you know, he's so far in the weeds over here. Whatever he thought he wanted to do there is over his head.
I agree. The other thing that I want to talk about this bill, because it looks as though as of today, just within 24 hours, it's not going to pass due to the power of X. And I know, Pete, you are off of X now, or I don't know if you're back on it.
No, I'm off. I'm a Blue Sky now.
Okay, Blue Sky. So what's going on is Elon and Vivek started posting all these things about it, and with AI and Grok, which is just basically the X AI. I don't know what Google's is. I can't remember. Gemini, I think it is.
Yeah, Gemini.
Yes, Gemini. Yes. So they basically said, "Give me the abbreviated 1,500 words," and it comes out with, within 8 seconds, and it abbreviates it all, and it showed all the pork within the bill very, very fast, which, okay, great for AI. But everyone started, like David Bazinet said earlier, call your congressman, call your party, call your office, blah, blah, blah. And it looks like so many people from the top down are backing away saying, whoa, okay, yeah, we didn't know that was in there. We didn't know about the Redskin Stadium. No, I would never vote for that. I didn't know about this. And so now it looks like it's going on the back burner again, and it's going to have to be rewritten with, like Pete said, a clean bill, or Jesus, at least a cleaner bill, because this one's dog crap.
So Luna came out 2 hours ago and said that there was supposed to be a vote on it today. There's going to be no vote today. They're supposed to bring a clean bill to just reestablish what is already there, and it's supposed to be voted on, given out to the members tomorrow, voted on either late Thursday night or early Friday morning.
Go ahead, TC.
Hey, Chris, I just, while Pete was talking, I just Googled something. The 117th Congress, which was January of 21 to January of 23, passed 362 public laws. The 118th Congress, which is January 23 to January of 25, so far, they've only passed 82.
And I bet you they're not the worst ones, right? I'm sure they're
probably not.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
I was trying to Google how many days they were actually in session, and I'm sure it's
that's
ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the 117th only had like two and a half weeks. I think it said 17 days where Trump was in office, and then Joey B took over.
And I think, before you get going, Humble, I think both parties over the past 8 years or 10 years have become so disgusted with what, because you're seeing everything more now that it's on social media. It's not just what on the mainstream media. If you're taking in mainstream media, you're not seeing a lot of it. I think what the left and the right are both starting to realize is that the threat of, oh no, the government's going to get shut down. What are we going to do? We can't activate until March. Everyone's like, I don't care. Oh, okay.
Really?
Oh no, that's. Humble, go ahead.
I mean,
Go ahead, Pete. Minimal.
I was going to say it's so performative because we can print money. So
Yeah.
I mean, we're not really out of money. I mean, and whether you agree with that or not, it's just like it's a performative thing that both parties raise money off of, right?
100%. I would agree. Abel, go ahead.
No, I'm good. There's nothing more. What are you going to say about it? You're not going to beat this horse. This is my number one problem was this. The fact that we had senators or representatives in the House, the fact that we had House representatives go, two things. First off, they passed it. They put it in. We got to vote for it because there's hurricane relief in it. And they didn't read anything else or think about anything other than that. And the second thing, I guess there's three. The second thing is like, oh, well, this is the way we do business. So we're just going to continue to sign and go down the road. And the third one is that if any human being that is like, oh, hey, 1,500 pages, we got 3 hours to read it. Staffers get to work. Fuck it. We're good. Like, pass the bill without figuring out what's in it. That's the shit that, like, nobody on this panel could run their personal business like that shit, or you'd be living in a box.
No shit.
100%. But we got Mike is back with us.
Mike
playing hurt. Mike playing hurt. All right.
I'm off the DL. I'm off.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Let's see the hand. Where's the hand? Let's see the hand.
I got you can't really see it. I got a bandage here.
That's it.
Yeah.
Slammed not this one. This one. I slammed it in a door this morning, and like a macho jerk, I waited till 7:30 tonight to have somebody look at it, and she's like, well, we can't suture it now. It's been 12 hours. So you're gonna have to take a little dermoplast and come back tomorrow morning for x-rays to see if you broke your finger. Because if you broke your finger, it's a ruptured fracture, it's an open fracture, and it's a whole different protocol and yada yada yada. But
popsicle stick and duct tape, baby.
Yeah, that's I had it a series of well-engineered band-aids all day, and then but my problem was like 8 hours would go by and I'd take them off to change them, and the blood would just start gushing again, like the night, like the Black Knight in Holy Grail with his arm off, and I was just like, oh, this sucks.
Okay, so Mike, it's actually good that you're on here, obviously for many reasons, but number one, because you're the legal guy, and we were talking about how this new omnibus bill, I don't know if you knew about it, they put it out yesterday, it was supposed to be 1,547 pages, they were going to pass it by Friday.
Yeah, man.
That there was a bunch of pork in it, like beyond pork, like Washington Redskins stadium pork.
Right.
And
that's not
well,
true.
that's
no, it's literally true.
Hold on.
I know,
I know it's in there.
Though.
Yeah, the Democrats did that. So that's actually a deal they've been negotiating. Maryland agreed to vote. The Democrats in Maryland agreed to vote to let the city take over management of to allow that RFK can be developed probably for the Commanders, which by the way means Maryland's giving up the Commanders because they're now in Landover, Maryland.
Right. Right.
So they're letting a football team and a revenue stream go into the district in exchange for a bunch of funds from the federal government to help broaden the armed forces bridge, which is one of the two bridges on the Beltway where they have trouble finding funds to broaden it because traffic sucks ass. So that's actually interesting because that one, while it smells like pork belly, that's sort of politics as usual. It was a quid pro quo. We'll give you this, but you got to give us some money for the highway. And frankly, as a Marylander, I'm fine with both. I like the idea of the football team being in the city, and I need to see that fucking bridge widen. So, and I think a lot of people in Virginia feel the same way too. Because guess what? The bridge is not. It's like what you're not just widening the Maryland side, you're widening the whole bridge, and you need to do it for
so we talked about that, and we're going to jump topics here. I wanted your opinion on that, but we're going to come back to it probably. A week ago, the CEO of United Healthcare walking down the street, having a good time. 6 in the morning, boom, Luigi Marini or whatever decides he's going to defend Marini, was it?
Luigi Mangione.
Yeah, Mangione, good Italian name, decides he's going to take matters into his own hands. And as he, boom, kills this guy in cold blood. And then it kind of smells to high hell. There's a couple of parts that smell to high hell. The dude is a valedictorian. He goes to Penn. He's an Ivy League. We got it. You're super smart. We got it. He decides to keep the same outfit, same backpack, same jacket, go to McDonald's, okay, eats with, he's got this mask on, so he's trying to hide himself, or maybe he's very into the Rona. I'm not sure. But he
Well, the McRib is back. In his defense, the MCRIB is back.
Well, that is true. The McRib is back. And then he uses an ID, which they find out is a fake ID. Number one, I think Vegas is the only McDonald's that serves booze. So what's he have an ID for at McDonald's? Number one. Number two, why is he wearing the same exact outfit over a day later? Right. And number three, am I a little off on this one, Humble and TC? But is this the first time that the left is praising something without worrying about gun control?
Well, I think anybody on the left who's praising cold-blooded murder in the streets of New York City is a little nuts. I think the fact that the guy was murdered is horrible. Of course, I don't support it in any way at all. Am I always for raising visibility into the nefarious machinations of insurance companies? Sure. Those should be reformed. Some of those guys are evil. They should go to jail. I think there's a reason no one even bats an eye when they watch like a Pixar movie like The Incredibles, and in the first 20 minutes you can see that his job as an insurance guy is to reject all claims. No one even says, whoa, what's this all about? Because we all just believe it's true. We all just believe that that's how insurance companies work. You can't get anything done unless you complain about them on the internet and submit the same form 75 times. All that being said, I'm totally against murder. Do I think the guy, from what I understand of the guy's history, he's had a lot of health problems, and he's probably gone through a lot of pain and trauma in the last couple of years. And I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if it comes out that despite his pedigree and all his valedictorian stuff, he's got serious mental health problems. And so do I think any of the decisions he made make sense? No. But I'm not willing to say it's some sort of weird conspiracy cover-up and it's something else. I think the guy's probably
he's had, because I know he had some back injuries. He's probably hopped up on some narcotics and he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That's what you're.
And he's probably either hopped up on narcotics, in constant pain, in crippling debt, which can do a lot to your mentality. Especially a guy who's set up for success in life, private school, valedictorian, all this stuff, and suddenly you can't make ends meet. I mean, that's a much farther fall than someone who was scraping it together from the day they were born. He's not used to debt.
But hey, Rubio, I got a question for you.
Okay.
All the insurance people, the insurance companies have been getting these threats, and the security details for the executives had been increased, especially for this guy. But he decides on a cool December morning to walk to this hotel where he's talking to stakeholders without any of his security detail. Where's the security detail for the CEO walking the streets of New York? I mean, that's to me, that's almost the first question, because take the gunman out of it, he could have gotten jumped and mugged by just anybody on the streets of New York.
I agree.
Not at 7:30 in the morning, man. They sleep in.
Okay, sorry. All right.
Well, they're not
New Yorker,
That begs a lot of
no offense to the New York, but my whole point is my first thought was, where was even at least one guy? He had
but that's an irrelevant point. That's a moot point. If someone has security or not, he still doesn't deserve to be killed, is what we're saying.
A lot of these guys.
That's not my point. My point is that security guy could have possibly in our discussion would have noticed him a questionable character.
Could be
there. A nefarious character waiting in the dark, because they're trained to. I think
a lot of these guys turn down the security because they don't want it. They don't want someone breathing around their necks all the time.
Well,
I've done stuff like I've done security for shit a lot. When I was in the Army, I did way more of it. But yeah, man, it depends. Like some CEOs are like, get the fuck away from me, or I want to go on my morning run and you're not as fast as I am, so get the fuck out. It just depends, man. It's whatever the PC wants, dude. If the PC says this is what I want, the PC is there. Right? Unless he's bound by an insurance, like he's got a life insurance policy that's worth fucking 10 million, and then insurance policy says you will have security with you 24/7. Like if the PC says go pound sand, dude, you're a hired contractor at that point. He's going to tell you to pound sand no matter what happens. Now, you can advise him, like, sir, this is a bad idea, but he can tell you to go fucking pound sand all at once.
Absolutely.
Those guys aren't going to honor that insurance policy anyway. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, I mean,
actually,
they're going to deny it.
Sheldon has a great point. He says, my question is, how did the nefarious character know the time, place, and door in exact direction? Well, I think it was a known that he was going to a seminar or some sort of big meeting amongst the other heads of blah, blah, blah.
For stakeholders.
For United,
so it was
United
probably
Healthcare.
somewhat public.
And I don't think we know yet whether or not the guy was sitting out in front of his house for a week just waiting for him to come out. I mean, for all we know, it's not that he knew to be there that day. He's been there for 4 days and he finally got him.
So can we all agree that murder is bad?
Of course.
Yes.
Murder is
Okay. Are we all going with the agreement of it smells a little fishy or not? Are we all leaning towards Michael?
I love a good conspiracy theory, but he just, I don't think he's a mastermind.
Remember the guy, Mark David Chapman shot John Lennon, and what was the next thing he did? He sat down on the steps of the building and he started leafing through Catcher in the Rye until the authorities showed up. There's no rhyme or reason for why they act that way.
Okay. But my thing is, through what I've seen throughout all the social media, is going back to my second point is, okay, wow, people are praising this like, yay, CEOs, healthcare bad. I've seen a lot of it. I know, Mike, you don't see it, but it's one of those things that I've seen a lot of it. And you even see like on The View and things like that, where they're like, well, blah, blah. And you've got the late night host joking about it and things like that. Chris Rock made a joke about it on Saturday Night Live. And the quote unquote left never mentioned gun control one time. Never once did they say gun control. But then yesterday in Madison, Wisconsin, you have a 15-year-old girl, which I'd love to hear the history of this girl, of what's going on with her family. And now Joey B immediately comes out with, we need gun control. So I'm going to go to TC, who's literally a gun control expert. Okay. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I honestly am shocked and surprised and still that it hasn't come up in the CEO thing. I figured that was, anytime anything, I'm sure Nick's the same way. Anytime anything like that happens, I'm like, okay, 5, 4, 3, here it comes. I think the last time I checked, there was like 500 million registered handguns in America by private citizens. This is some girl. It's going to come out that she didn't have it legally. It wasn't her gun. They can say, oh, it should have been locked up. Yeah, it probably should have been. And that's when I teach license to carry. That's one of the rules is if a child or anybody else gets the gun because you didn't secure it properly, you're liable. And I agree with that. I'm
100%.
Pardon me?
100%.
Yeah. No,
I agree with you 100%.
And so when they do that and they say it's a gun control issue, I don't know that it's a gun control issue as much as the gun should have been in better control.
Right.
Just broadly, so the right is upset when the left says it's about gun control, but when they don't say it's about gun control, then they're also upset with the left?
No, no. What I'm saying is, how come it wasn't brought up on both times? Because if the whole thing is gun control, that's the hill you're going to die on. That's great. But what I'm saying is, I wanted to, if it's going to be all the way across, because if a bad quote unquote right wing guy dies, then gun control is not looked at. But if all of a sudden it's kids that are dying, yes, gun control.
I'll be the first one to say that gun control. I'm for more gun control than our country has, no question. That being said, the thing about a guy like the guy who shot the CEO, and I forget his name,
Luigi,
this is not a repeat offender. This is not a criminal. Like these are exactly the cases I don't think you can legislate against with gun control laws. He has, from what I understand, he has no history of mental illness. He's never done anything really bad in his life before. This is the first time he shows up. He would pass if a state had a very strict gun control, background check, he'd probably pass it, right? He doesn't have a history of anything.
I don't think they don't care. That girl didn't pass a background check. She just got a gun.
Right. Okay, that's a different situation.
Well, actually, didn't the guy made the gun off a 3D printer? He did.
Yeah, that was a ghost gun. Luigi had a ghost gun.
So it wasn't.
That's a whole different kettle of fish.
Okay, hold on. Let me go to Umble because he's been chomping at the bit.
No, I'm not. I don't engage on the gun control thing because people that don't handle guns I was a Green Beret for 15 years. I've shot millions of rounds, like no bullshit, millions. That's pistol, that's 50 cals, that's 40 millimeter, that's fucking AT4 rockets. I fired it. And this is the thing. It's an inanimate object. And I don't argue gun control because you can't. People that want guns and say background checks, well, check this out. I have a clearance. It doesn't matter how high, but I have one, right? Which means I'm obviously not going to go fucking overthrow the government if I have one of those fucking things, because I get my ass reamed about every fucking 5 years for that. So then if I want to conceal carry, I got to go to the cops and I got to give them fingerprints, and then that will allow me to carry concealed. And I got to go through another background check to make sure I'm not a criminal and I don't have any of these fucking things going on. And I live in West Virginia. Like, I can have ammunition delivered to my fucking house. I can own anything I want, to include a goddamn flamethrower in this fucking state. Right. But this is why the gun control shit doesn't work with me. I am 46 years old. I went to high school between 1992 and 1996. When I was in high school in a small town in Iowa, anytime between mid-November and mid-December in deer season, there were 1,000 fucking rifles and shotguns in the back of people's cars and gun racks. Guys would go out at lunch and be like, hey, my dad just got me a new Mossberg. Check this shit out. And we would be like racking rounds in and out of it at lunch on school property. The minute school got out, people were driving off to go shoot deer or go fucking hunt pheasant with their dogs or whatever. So from 1996 to 2024, what has changed? The gun didn't change. The gun has not changed. Getting a gun is easier in 1996 than it is in 2024. So I went to Maryland to go buy a scope for my rifle. I went and bought an EOTech. And I use stuff that I used in the military because I'm familiar with it. And guns to me are nothing but a fucking tool. That's exactly how I view them. And so they had a girl that came in and she's like, hey, I want to buy that pistol. And the guy was like, all right, well, where do you live? She was like, I live in Maryland and I want to buy blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I want to look at that. I was looking at another like fucking pistol. And the guy was like, hey, where do you live? I said, West Virginia. He's like, fuck, man. All right, well, here, you just fill this out, man, and we'll make a phone call. And if you can take it out today, you can. If you're not, maybe they'll put a hold on it and you got to wait. And she was like, well, why does he get to do that and I don't? And it's because of the different state laws, right? And so the state of Maryland requires you to have a pistol qualification. They require you to have a 40-hour gun safe class. They require you to have a couple other things too, man. It's pretty nuts, the amount of shit that the state of Maryland makes you have. But regardless, she was shocked that you couldn't just walk out and buy a fucking gun. I can't just walk out and buy a gun. I pick up a gun because I don't have my concealed. They call the DEA or the ATF and say, hey, man, we got to do a background check on this dude. And I fill out a form and they look at it and they decide. Now, sometimes they put you on a 3-day hold and sometimes they don't put you on a 3-day hold.
But
right?
What's the argument against training? What's the argument against being educated and training for a gun, like as part of gun ownership? I don't understand why that's that's pushed.
What training and gun? I'm not arguing it.
No, he's not. I'm. By the way,
I think so. My parents live in the state of Iowa. My mom and dad went through a 4-hour fucking course, and they were gonna like go buy a pistol. My parents have never owned a gun in their fucking lives. And my mom's like, well, we think we need one. And I'm like, no, you don't. You're the last people that need a fucking gun. And this is the reason why. You're in your 70s. You've never shot rifle. You've never shot a pit. My dad hasn't shot a shotgun in 60 years. He's never shot a rifle. My mom's never shot any weapon at all. And you're going to give them a 4-hour class and tell them they can go buy a pistol. My mom's going to go get a concealed carry and throw it in her fucking purse. She's going to end up dead because she doesn't know how to handle that weapon versus than she does. Somebody robs her and finds that gun. They're going to kill her with her own fucking gun.
Okay.
My argument for this whole thing is,
guys, I got an emergency in the backyard I need to go deal with, so I might be back, but if not, I'll talk to you guys soon. Okay.
Good luck with that.
All right. Good luck, man.
yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
But my thing is this, the gun hasn't changed. So what changed? Society changed, right? When I taught Jen's youngest boy how to drive a car, it was like, fuck, man, this kid was 18 years old almost, didn't want to get a license. Then when he got one, it was insufferable to teach him how to drive a fucking car. And I hate to throw the kid under the bus. I'm not going to say his name, but it was like, hey, man, this ain't a video game. These dudes are so immune. And I know nobody wants to hear the video game fucking bullshit, right? But when you go play Call of Duty all day fucking long and all you're doing is slaying shit and you become mind numbing to what that is, right. And then every TV program you watch is people killing other people. Like the gun hasn't changed. We were old enough at 14 years old and as a freshman in high school, we were in the parking lot handling shotguns, and at no point did anyone think about bringing one into the school to shoot someone. So what the fuck has changed?
Okay.
So on
go ahead, Michael. Then I want to hear Pete.
On school shootings, there's been a lot of interesting studies that suggest that part of the problem is, I don't want to get too into the weeds on this one, but basically there's a sociological concept that something happens and the media jumps on it, and you get a ripple effect where it's going to start happening more and more. As young, impressionable people or people with mental issues see it as a way to become popular and noticed and heard. So, John, for instance, Lee Harvey Oswald shoots Kennedy, and right away after that, we start to see, this ripple effect of lone assassins. And then they basically say if you can almost geometrically plot from Columbine out, the school shootings in America, how Columbine was such a big media event and made such a big impression on an entire generation of school kids that if 5,000 of them are paying attention to it and 3 of them have mental health issues or feel like they're, cornered strangers or bullied kids, these things start to waterfall out. And they literally, one of the examples, the metaphor the guy gave I read about says literally it's like, and it starts to mean less. The guys at Columbine did it for a reason. They felt like they were bullied or whatever. Other people further out don't do it for any reason at all. And they say it's almost sort of like if there's a demonstration that goes ugly, in the middle of the crowd, there's some guy fighting with a cop because he felt like he got shoved. At the edges of the crowd, there are people who are thinking, fucking free-for-all, we're just going to steal TVs and break windows because the violence ripples out and starts to lose its meaning and becomes more common. And that's what these shootings are starting to become. More and more, it's just online attention grabs, the dumbest reason in the world. But most of these kids have probably sad cases of parental abuse or mental health issues. I literally don't think any teenager who walks into school and starts shooting people is evil. I think he's probably a victim of his circumstances more than anything because the teenage brain isn't even fucking formed yet. It's not even fully
25.
Yeah. So my whole thing is though, Nick, and this last thing I'm going to say, although I'm going to twist it a little and it's going to cause trouble. I agree with you, Nick. I think a gun is a tool, like a car is a tool. And we regulate the shit out of who can drive and insurance they have to have and licenses they have to carry because cars are really fucking dangerous in the wrong hands. And I kind of feel the same way about guns.
But wouldn't you
I'm
agree?
I'm okay with effective, reasonable legislation, but I don't think it's going to stop every accident or every bad guy from doing something. I'm not crazy. I don't think that's true.
That's the thing that pisses me off is people are like, well, it'll stop school shootings. Okay, well, technically, New York and Chicago have the safest fucking gun laws in the country, and they're some of the most they're the murderous capitals of the fucking world. But nobody cares when people are in the inner city shooting each other, regardless of what color you are. Demographics aside,
I agree.
No one gives a shit when people are down in Mississippi. Fucking,
it's probably not going to stop school shootings. But when you look at the number of kids in America who are injured because their parents leave the guns out instead of putting them in the safes or don't do stuff, if you increase the liability on those parents, if you increase maybe you put an insurance requirement on it, maybe you made the training a little more onerous, maybe somebody too lazy to put their fucking gun in a safe will be too lazy to go out and buy one because you made it that much harder. And that neighborhood kid doesn't walk in and pick up what he thinks is a paperweight and put a bullet through his head. Because you see an awful lot of those that aren't in the news because they're not splashy and they happen all the time.
No, man, I have a kid. I have a kid that I was probably 15, 16 years old and he was 14. And I grew up with he grew up with my grandparents, but I knew his family. And I knew the kid, and he had his old man's gun and he took it to school and thought he was fucking cool, man. And the first thing of a gun is it's always fucking loaded. No matter you pick up a weapon, you always assume it's loaded until you personally unload it.
Unless you're 8 years old.
That motherfucker was 15 years old and put that gun to his head and pulled the fucking trigger. And wouldn't you know it, there was a fucking round in the chamber.
Yep. Sure.
Okay. So that's one of those things, man, where that kid was a hunter. He would go out with his dad every year and his uncles and his family and fucking hunt deer and was around guns his whole fucking life.
Right.
And he fucking made a dumbass decision to be, hey, I'm going to be fucking stupid. And I feel for the family, but in that case, I'm like, hey, man, if you've been around guns that long and you know the safety parameters of those weapons and you fucking put that shit to your head and pull the trigger, man, without checking to make sure it's clear, like that's rule number one, bro.
Let me clear.
Hold on, Phil Johnson says, but the laws will work. Hold on. I just want to read Phil Johnson's comment real quick. It says, but the laws will only work if everyone follows them. The criminals do not care. The people driving on suspended licenses don't care. I mean, yeah, that's one. And then Sheldon had one before, sub 60. Can you pull that one up? Same issue in Canada, super tight firearm regulations that most are happy to follow. The problem is it's not the duck hunters causing the problems. See, that's become the issue, is that the criminals don't follow the laws.
I want access to guns to be harder in places where it's way too fucking easy. And I want liability for people who are negligent with guns to increase. And those two things won't stop crimes. I agree. But they'll stop household accidents. They'll stop crimes of passion where two people are yelling and screaming and drunk and someone reaches into a drawer and pulls out a gun that's too fucking easy to get to. They'll lower those things. You're not going to stop criminals. I've always said that. They're always going to get guns. That's not... That I'm not the liberal who gets mad about gun control when there's a mall shooting. I worry about mental health then. I'm the liberal who worries about gun control because no one's fucking reporting the fact that right now gun accidents in houses is the highest cause of mortality in children in the homes in America. It's not slip and fall. It's not drowning in bathtubs. It's not crib death. It's none of that shit. It's gun accidents. That's the highest form of child mortality in America right now. Because people are leaving their guns around.
I want to hear Pete. Pete's been pretty damn quiet here.
I was just going to say, just as far as the murder rates go, whatever your perception is, New York and LA and Chicago aren't even the top 20 per 100,000 residents, murders per capita. Okay. Right. There aren't rampant murders in New York City. There just aren't.
There are more murders because there's more people, but not per capita.
Yeah, but not but per capita. You can't say there's more murders there than any place else. It's mostly smaller cities and smaller towns that have a higher murder rate per capita. But I agree with I'll just add a little bit to what Michael said. Like I agree with Michael. I agree with you, Nick, as well. I think people have changed. So then let's not regulate the tool, but let's regulate how people can get that tool. If people have changed, let's address that. I'm not saying this is the only other option, but if you don't want to do that, then what do you want to do? You meaning the anti-gun control people.
So I have a problem with what both of you guys are saying, right? I'm a responsible individual.
Right.
I've proven that over 20 years of service and 14 years of being a special operator.
Right.
Why am I being regulated?
Because you live in a society. It's the same. You live in a society. And
I have
a
good driving record.
So if you've had a DUI, you don't ever get to drive a car again.
I think if you kill someone with a gun, you shouldn't have a gun again.
You can't. It's called having a felony.
Right.
You can't have a gun again.
Right. I think I think
on the books already, my friend.
But I think you're regulated the same way. I have a good driving record, but as I get older, I need to take they keep an eye on you because in theory we don't want grandpa driving around blind.
They adjust how you drive, how you can use it.
Yeah, and if my driving record starts to suck, if I get points against my license, I don't think you should have to go through a lot of rigorous stuff every year. Like, I think once you're in and you've got a good record, I'm okay with that. I don't know the specifics of every state law, but I will tell you a quick story that turned a guy like you around. A friend of mine's father grew up hunting with his. No, just real quick. A friend of mine, his father grew up hunting with his father. He takes my friend hunting. They're a hunting family. They own hunting rifles. They're very safe with them. He's a medical doctor. He's a super nice guy. He's 6'3". He's completely bald and he has bright blue eyes. He's a very
oh my God, it's another bald story. It's another bald story.
So years ago, he went to get on a plane and he missed his flight. This is even before 9/11, by the way, and then after 9/11, it got worse for him because his physical description and his exact name, first name, middle initial, last name, matched a guy on the FBI's like 100 most wanted guys. So he got stopped at an airport and he had to go through the security officers came out and made him do a whole bunch of extra things. And as a result, he missed his plane. So he said to the guy, how do I stop this from happening in the future? And the airport guy said to him, the best thing you can do because of your situation, this is before 9/11 when they had all these clears and TSA lists and stuff. He says, call ahead if you got a flight. We'll, call the airport. A security officer will meet you at the gate, bring extra documentation, and we'll meet you at the security checkpoint and we'll get you through and you'll be fine. As a good American wanting to cooperate, he did that. He didn't have a problem doing that because he understood this weird coincidence. He looked just like this guy the FBI were trying to get. He decided to give his hunting rifle that his father had given to him to his son. So he did. Then he went into a Kmart in Virginia. This is about 15 years ago. He went into one of these big box stores that sold guns and ammunition to buy a new one. And he brought all this documentation about himself. And the girl behind the register sold him a box of bullets and a long-range rifle and didn't even look at the signature on his credit card. And at that moment, he realized a guy on the FBI's most wanted list could walk into a grocery store in Virginia, this is 20 years ago, and buy a rifle and a box of bullets, and no one would bat an eye. And he's like, this is fucking crazy. And he was like an NRA guy. He was like, but this is fucking crazy.
Mike, if I want a fucking 50 cal and I want fucking slap rounds, you know what a slap round is? It's basically a mini. A slap round is basically a mini.
It turns a non-automatic gun into an automatic gun.
No, that's not what it fucking is. You guys have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, that's a bump stock.
Talk to me about operations of fucking guns if you don't know what you're talking about.
We need to know what a slap round is to understand what you're talking about. It's a big gun and a big bullet. Got it.
Because a slap round is a specialty round that has a depleted uranium tip to it. That's why it's important. If you knew what depleted uranium will fucking go through, then you wouldn't argue that point. Again, if you don't know what you're talking about when you're talking about the operation of a gun, stop talking about it.
Right.
Because guys that talk about shit that they don't know about really fucking irritates gun owners.
I got it confused with something else. I'm sorry.
But Nick, I mean, you don't need to apologize. You're mistaken, Michael. But Nick, so what's the point of your story with your depleted uranium rounds? Please tell me.
I can go to any fucking clubhouse of any fucking major MC, put my credentials out and pull fucking slap rounds out individually and put them in a 50 cal sniper rifle. Now I have slap rounds and a 50 cal sniper rifle.
But I'm okay with that because you've got credentials. This guy walked in.
Dude, I'm talking credentials of like, hey, motherfucker, I go to a motorcycle club and say, hey, man, this is what I need. This is my credentials. I'm a Green Beret. That's what I'm talking about. I can buy all of these guns on the fucking black market.
Right. But you can always buy bad stuff on the black market.
I'm confused what we're talking about now.
You're making an argument that, oh, man, anyone can walk in and get fucking guns and bullets from a fucking Walmart. Well, guess what? I can walk across the fucking street and buy them too.
Right, but I'm just saying, make it harder. It's like, just because the basement's flooded, you don't not turn the water off. Like, you got to start dealing with the problem. And if we make it harder, then the teenage kid who doesn't know about the motorcycle club or sure as fuck isn't wanted in the motorcycle club can't go in there. And guess what? I'm okay with plugging the loopholes on gun shows and all that shit.
That's crazy. The thing. There is no such thing as a gun show loophole. There hasn't been in over 30 years.
Okay.
Since 9/11, that shit has gone away.
That's a myth.
That is a myth. It's been a myth.
Nick, as a responsible gun owner, why don't we hear more responsible gun owners talking about what you're talking about?
Right.
When you don't hear them ever. You seem to.
Pete, you do. If you listen to guys like Mike Glover and you listen to guys like Sean Ryan and you listen to guys like fucking Joe Rogan who hunt and handle guns and have been former Delta operators, John McPhee, what's the guy from SEAL Team 6 that rescued Jessica Lynch? We all talk about the same thing, right? Like gun sears. This is the deal. Let's bring up the whole like fucking what the fuck was that thing called? Bump stocks.
Yeah. Right.
If you own a bump stock, you are the dumbest motherfucker on the planet. Period.
Okay. I don't, so I'm good.
A bump stock. They say what a bump stock was to make your hand pull the trigger faster. And I've said this, I have a ton of friends in the community that we've had this conversation about the Vegas shooter. If the Vegas shooter was a trained special operator, we would have killed thousands. It would have been like shooting fish in a fucking barrel. A bump stock, you don't have to aim with a bump stock. A bump stock is some dumbass that wants to just pull the trigger and do this bullshit.
Right.
We were never taught that kind of stuff. I don't teach that kind of stuff. I know TC doesn't teach that kind of stuff. Guys that were military oriented and special operators don't talk about that shit. Bump stocks are dumb. I understand a pistol brace for guys that are impaired. What I mean impaired, have a disability. I understand that should be. right? I have a problem with guys using a wrist brace on a pistol. I don't. I hunted with an old man that had cancer, and he couldn't hold a shotgun. So he went to the state, and they allowed him to use a 44 Magnum with a scope on the top and a brace that he had specially made for him, so he could hunt deer. Because the guy had cancer. I am too. But what I'm saying is that, like, Pete, if you listen to the guys that were from my community in the tier 1 community, we all talk like this.
Okay, hold on.
All of that stuff.
Real quick. To let's say enlighten Pete, is there a podcast or a certain book that he should take up? Like, is there an hour-long podcast that would be someone that you would recommend that would say, because Pete's not going to hear it on what he's listening to, obviously.
I mean, I've listened to Sean Ryan. I've listened to Joe Rogan. I've listened to all these ex-Delta Force, heroes with their podcasts. But I'm talking about mainstream media, and I know that's a 4-letter word.
You laugh at those guys like they're not heroes, like they're shitheads.
No, I don't need to. I'm not going to argue. You are such a hair trigger with your service. I thank you for your service.
It is. What I'm saying is, you make fun of those guys like they don't.
I'm not making fun of them. I'm not. My father's a veteran. My father worked for the FBI. My mom worked for the CIA. So fucking step off, Nick. All right.
But Pete, real quick.
No. Why can't I want to get upset just like Nick?
I know. I'm just going to help you out here.
Enlighten me. But don't tell me to watch Joe Rogan. Don't tell me to watch Joe Rogan. It's fucking childish.
What I'm saying is, when you come on,
such a dick about this.
What?
Pete,
why are you such a dick about stuff like this?
I'm not being a dick. I just
no
have
reason to be like that.
And I'm saying my community's not hearing your community's point of view, and you're telling me to go watch Sean Ryan.
Do you know who Sean Ryan is? Do you know what he talks about? What he does on his? You don't have to listen to his podcast. He does other things. Like Mike Glover does the same thing. Mike Glover talks about survivability.
Sean Ryan podcast.
John McPhee talks about what weapons he carries, why he carries them, why he uses what he uses. Everybody wants to jump on the Joe Rogan shit, man. I don't give a fuck about that. But you
brought him up. You brought him up. I didn't bring him up.
He's a hunter, and he had guys like John McPhee on his show that were talking about, like, hey man, this is what I carried, why I carried it.
I think Rubio has the conch shell.
real quick, Pete. I understand what you're saying. What got Nick to his trigger is when you come off and say, and they were heroes, and you say it in a condescending manner. Anyone's going to pick that as you're mocking them. The way you.
I will say they have served our country. It doesn't make them a hero. They've served the country. Not everybody in every position is the best they can be. I'm not saying they're not heroes, but that was my editorial comment. But there's been lots of editorial comments on this podcast.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is,
don't single me out for mine.
I'm singling you out because you're the one that he triggered him because of the way you said heroes. It comes off as a different way. It's like when you read a text, sometimes it doesn't come off the way you're trying to say it. Okay. And number one, and number two, we could go back and argue if you served your country a hero or not. I automatically say yes. Okay. That's a whole separate issue. What I'm saying is how you don't see them on mainstream media. Do you really think, let's say, the people of The View or George Stephanopoulos is going to have someone like Nick Umble on arguing his side? It's never going to happen. It's not going to happen.
You mentioned The View twice. I've never seen The View. Like that's not mainstream.
You haven't seen The View. It's not your audience. Okay, but what shows do you watch? Because do you think they're going to have someone like Nick Umble on?
I just think it's important, and I feel like we're on the same page here. I think it's important for that other view to get out into the media. It's not my job to tell that side how to do it.
But what shows do you watch that we can get Nick Umble on? Like,
again, we're not talking about me, because right now I'm watching absolutely nothing.
I'm saying you metaphorically. I'm saying the peaks.
But I don't represent the left 100%. But like, Mike, help me out. I don't know where to say. You're going to want to go to CNN. You're going to want to go to MSNBC. You're going to want to go to Fox. You're going to want to be on all these other mainstream platforms.
Wow.
That are older audience. Granted, but The Onion, sure.
I had a thought though.
Washington Examiner.
I feel like we're sort of dancing around something here a little bit, which is that Nick's talking about these various podcasts, these different people who are talking about sensible approaches, I think, to what you can do with a gun. And he's not screaming and yelling about how ridiculously unfair it is that his parents would be asked to take a safety course or whatever.
Right.
He's not saying it should be 100% gun access all the time. But I think most Americans, at least from certainly where I come from anyway, have this sense that the group we haven't mentioned, at least since I got on the call, the NRA, tends to lobby for against any kind of gun control whatsoever. It has a chilling effect. Second Amendment, yada, yada, yada. You can't have any of it. And they're the first ones the mainstream media puts a microphone in front of after one of these things, because they've sort of been the established party to represent gun owner rights. And which really raises a question I want to ask the group, because I'm always fascinated by how people react to this, because I have a very strong opinion about it, which is, do you consider, Nick especially, I would love your opinion, the NRA to be a civil rights organization or to be a trade organization that represents gun and ammunition manufacturers, which is very different than a civil rights organization defending your Second Amendment rights?
So me personally,
right.
I am not a member of the NRA and I stay away from it.
Okay.
I have nothing to do with it. And
I love your answer.
There are various reasons. The NRA can do what they need to do. And I understand some of what they do.
Right.
But there's a lot of things that they do that I don't necessarily agree with. And like I said, my parents are fucking in their 70s, and about 5 years ago, I want a gun. Like, I'm going to go to a 4-hour course. We're good to go. Like, Mom, you do not need to carry a fucking revolver in your purse. Well, we want something like you have. So you want to put a Glock 17 in your fucking purse? No, absolutely not.
I don't even like it when my parents use the remote control for TV. So I 100%
no. Like, I understand what you think you need this for. Right. But when someone breaks into my house, oh man, I fucking itch for that fucking day, dude, because I've been doing this shit my whole life. However, when someone breaks into my parents' house and they got that fucking gun, it's probably going to get used on them. Right. And that to me is a problem. Now I also stand on, hey man, we have that amendment and it allows people to have that. What I wish people would do instead is give a conscious effort to go, okay, I know I can own a gun. It's a right that's granted to me in this country by the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights. However, let's do some research on fucking what we're doing, right? You research a car before you buy it. You have to learn how to drive it. Now, you can just not get a license, or you can just drive a car without a fucking license, right? But you're going to pay the price down the road for that.
Yep.
And so, and I understand. I get it. But to your point, no, I am not a fucking member of the NRA. I will not give a red cent to the NRA. And I have a multitude of reasons for that.
Well, so I think the NRA is a big part of the problem why people on the left don't hear from reasonable gun owners, where there might be middle ground about what we can actually do to address some of these problems from a legislative standpoint. I think the NRA jumps in front of the microphone right away, has been doing it for 40 years, and says since they retooled themselves 40, 50 years ago as a civil rights organization, they got on that Second Amendment right to own thing. They realized it was a moneymaker. Frankly, I think the NRA is making the biggest mistake a business could possibly make, which is if every state in the union said, you need to be safety trained by an accredited organization to own a gun, and you got to pay that organization.
You could make a lot of money.
The NRA could make money doing that, training people on gun safety. I've been NRA trained. When I was years ago, I was a summer camp counselor. I did 22 riflery. Silly thing, but the camp guy, the owner of the camp, brought an NRA guy in during staff week at the beginning of every summer. We all got NRA memberships for doing a 4-hour course on helping teaching teenagers how to hold a 22 and point it downstream.
That's
you know what?
Responsible shit, dude.
It was great. It was what I want the NRA doing, not standing up in front of the state of Texas and saying, you got to make sure people can buy a gun at a gas station. That's great. Like,
Mike, I think we all agree with you. I think the problem, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, is because NRA does this because the other side, something happens with like, we got to stop guns, we got to ban guns, we got to ban handguns, we got to ban all these handguns, and then the NRA says, well, it's a Second Amendment. Then the left says we got to ban guns, we won't have this, and it becomes this big cockfight. And what you need to do is have several of those come on decades, and we can discuss it.
But a lot of lobbying groups will sit down with the loyal opposition and say, let's figure out what we can do that we can our constituents agree with and your constituents agree with. The NRA stonewalls. It's all or nothing for them.
No, and I think it's the same. I think you're running into the same concept, and not to run this down a fucking rabbit hole, but you're running into the same concept about bring federal workers back to work. And this is oh my God, they must be in the office 40 hours a week. Okay, well, what people don't understand is for one, the agency I used to work for, and I could potentially work for again here soon, they owned a building downtown DC. Not own it, but they rented it, right? They rented numerous buildings downtown DC. And this is what the people that are screaming, and it's a lot of people on my side that are screaming, bring all these fuckers back to work. They're not doing shit. Now listen, if you can't work from home, then you're just not an adult. Let's just be honest. Second, what people don't understand is that, okay, now we bring all these people back in. This organization, I think, is about 5,000 people strong. Their headquarters fits about 2,500 people. That's maxed out, right? And they're maxed out right now. And they got 2,500 people, to include me when I worked there, was like, take this computer, go the fuck home, only come in when you have to use these networks. Right. But if you bring everybody back in, these are the things that have to happen. You have to re-rent this building X downtown. Then you have to make sure that all of the servers are up to snuff in that building. You have to hire the IT professionals to get those all up to snuff. You have to get, and it's not just one fucking network, gents. It's three. Right. At a minimum, it's three, right? You're talking unclass, class, and TS. At a minimum, it's those three networks.
And a lot of those government agencies have legacy servers that are way out of date.
And so you got to hire security guards, right? Because those security guards have to maintain the entrance to this building. So what the agency I worked for found out is when we sent all these fucking people home and told them, if you don't have to use a classified network, don't come to fucking the building. But if you have to use one, come in and use it and get the fuck out.
Right.
What they did is the agency I was a part of saved $2 billion.
Love it.
Of rent, of IT services, of security HVAC, services. And so if you, and not to mention, when you go into work, man, them fuck classified networks run at the fucking speed of right now. But if you have that building crammed, bro, that shit runs at like the fucking, it's a spinning wheel, dude, because it's the government. It's just, it is the way it is. And so I understand that these guys are like, oh, everyone should have to fucking come here and pound their fist about everyone back in the office. Bringing everyone back into the office in the DC area is going to cost billions of dollars at this point.
It's a horrible idea.
Yeah.
I personally think that the most companies that bring everybody back in the office, it's because some old fart on Mahogany Row is convinced that jobs aren't happening unless he can see them happening. But really, he just doesn't like his wife and kids that much, and he wants to go into the office every day. And if he's going to go in, everybody else has got to fucking go in because he wants to have 3 martinis at lunch and fall asleep on the train on the way home.
Or they own the building and they have to get paid their rent.
Right.
They're paying rent on the building.
To circle that back, right? Yeah. You're seeing all these dudes on my side of the field like, oh, you have to bring them back. And I'm like, and I went to go type this out on X the other day, and I was like, you know what? It's just not worth my fucking breath. But I was going to type that all out. Like, hey, listen, these are the things that we turned off, and that money was saved. Now, when I say saved, that's a loose fucking term. We're talking about the government. But it went somewhere, right? But where it didn't go is what is that now when you have to bring all those people back into the building? You have to hire all those people back. So what I'm getting at is with gun control, it's the same way, like Rubio talked about, like, oh, it's always a one thing or another. It's either all guns have to go, no guns have to go. Bring everybody back in, nobody's coming back in. And it's an all or nothing, no sum game.
Okay. We're going on a merry-go-round here. We need to wrap up the show. Sub 60 is going to go crazy on me. The highlights for me was Pete coming in hot with his rosé or whatever that wine was.
Yeah,
Rioja.
Yeah. Mike eating unlimited animal crackers. I don't know what.
So I missed lunch and dinner because I ended up going to that walk-in clinic. So I want to thank everybody for joining me with this entire packet of Girl Scout cookies that I have just devoured.
That was funny. I was getting text messages from people that were watching that was saying, "Is Mike actually eating on the camera?"
Oh yeah,
I'm like, we do it all here.
I lost 75 pounds since March, so I don't want to hear it, you fucks. But I was getting a whole packet of Girl Scout cookies.
What flavor?
It's the only ones I had, which are the lemon ones, which are pretty darn tasty. Actually. Trust me, I'm a Thin Mints and Samoa's guy if I have my choice. Yeah. But any port in a storm, I'm starving, and it's what's here.
Yeah,
and I want to praise Umble because he's the first person I've heard him throw in his own comma. However, comma. So touche to that. Everyone that commented in, I'm getting a lot of text comments as well coming in saying, "Wow, this is a great episode."
By the way, we did miss a joke I wanted to point out about the guy. Not that it's funny, but about the guy who shot the CEO. I forget his name again. I don't want to learn these guys' names. I don't want to celebrate them, so I don't learn their names. But somebody pointed out that you're really sending mixed messages if you're protesting the greed of corporate America, going to a Starbucks, shooting a CEO, and then going to a McDonald's. You're not exactly supporting the mom and pop shops
100%.
with that itinerary.
Brandon Calkins says, great episode, Mike Donnelly. Gotta love a good Spanish Rioja. I guess everyone knows about the Rioja. Great show, guys. Both sides got me thinking about my views, as you should be. Everyone from Decades, from Mike, from Pete, from Humble, from Sub 68, and myself and TC, who had an emergency in the backyard. God knows what the hell that was. That could be.
I hope it involved raccoons.
Oh, he's in California, so it's not going to be coons.
Hey, want to wish everybody happy holidays. How about happy holidays? Merry Christmas.
Absolutely.
We won't see it. That's next week, guys. So whatever you celebrate, have a great one.
Yep.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.